Hello and welcome. My name is Lexi Jong, and here I like to talk about luxury beauty. And Chanel has released so many items this week, so I picked up a lot of it. And I'm going to show you first. I have the new Chanel #1 lip and cheek balms. I picked up all 6 of them, and they also released a foundation, which I have a sample of. We're going to try that on today. And then I also got samples of all of their skincare items. So I will have a separate video on those, but I want to be sure that I can test the skincare, first and put that in with the balms. So we'll look at these in a separate video. Now from the spring collection from Chanel, I picked up both of the blush Lumieres, and you can see that the boxes, they always color code these. They look almost identical, but they are a little different. You can see that Brun Roussi actually has some like shimmer on the box here, and the color's a little bit different. I also picked up the Mediterranean quad. I picked up all of the balms. So these are the Rouge Coco balms, and they have been reformulated. So I picked up all of those. These are not limited edition. However, the Mediterranean and the 2 blush Lumieres are limited edition. And then I also picked up the Balm Essentiel, which this is the first one of these glow sticks that I picked up from Chanel. So this is the shade Ensoleille, and I believe this one is limited edition as well. And I also picked up all of the La Comète lipsticks. So I will have a separate video, showing like lip swatches and comparisons and everything of the balms and the La Comète. So those will be 2 separate videos. But right now, let's go ahead and dive into this collection and take a look at this, and we will try on some of the lipsticks and balms as well. So right now I don't have anything on my skin, and I'm going to use a little bit of the Sublimage Perfector. This is like the new radiance primer that came out. So I'm going to put this on my skin. It has a very silky texture to it, and you can see that there is, some of those like little shimmery particles and everything in there. So it's supposed to give you some additional radiance. And I think the texture of it is really nice. It feels like a lightweight lotion. And then from there, I'm going to go ahead and add my concealer. I like to add my concealer underneath my foundation, so I'm going to use the Chanel Look Corrector. So I have the Look Corrector de Chanel in BR02. So I'm just going to add a little bit of this right here under my eyes. I'm going to let this sit for a second while I get out my foundation brush and everything. And this is what I'll be using for foundation. So this is the sample of the new Chanel #1 line foundation. So I'm taking the Sonia G Jumbo Concealer Brush. I'm just going to kind of blend out the concealer. So just like small tapping motions and a little swiping. So this is the BD01, and you can see here that it has separated. This is a very liquidy foundation, and you need to shake it before using it. So definitely something that you want to make sure you do. Let's go ahead and I'm just going to apply some to the back of my hand here. Sorry, it's like a really small little spatula. So here we go. So we've got some here, and I'm going to use the Chanel Sublimage foundation brush to apply this. So let's see how this goes on. It's very, very thin. My hair here. All right, so you can see how thin the texture is, and the coverage level is pretty light with 1 layer. Okay, let's add a second layer to the cheek and see what the difference is. So this is 2 layers versus 1 layer. I'm just gonna take what's left and put that on the rest of my face. So just bringing you in a little bit closer so you can kind of see the finish on here. Actually looks really nice. It's definitely a light to medium coverage. I don't think I can build it up a lot more than what I have on right now. So perhaps a little bit more, but yeah, you know, I feel like with foundations, they always look better if you go towards the lighter end of the coverage that it's intended for, if that makes sense. So since it's light to medium, I tend to veer on the lighter side and just barely touch into the medium. So I think that looks good. So texturally on my skin, it just feels like it's been recently moisturized. So it's not like tacky or sticky. It doesn't feel gloppy, but it's also not dry to the touch. It feels moisturized. So let's let the foundation sit for a couple of minutes and see, you know, how it feels then. You know, sometimes foundation needs to kind of settle into your skin a little bit and the texture changes. So I'm just curious to see whether that happens with this one or not. So looking at the Mediterranean quad, so it does have the gold emblem here. It comes with the 2 foam tip applicators, which I'm dropping. And this is the actual quad. So it's really pretty. You know, to be honest, these colors, you know, they don't look very unique or anything in here. They do look shimmery, but you know, they're neutrals. I'm very excited to try this though. So let's go ahead and, you know what, let's start swatching it first. So I'm just gonna go left to right, top and bottom. So these are the 4 shades here. Oops. They are very pretty. They are definitely shimmery. All right, let's get started. Let's go with kind of a peachier look first. So we're going to start off with this taupe shade that's first. So if you look at these, this one here is kind of more of it's a little bit of a taupe, but it's actually has more brown than a traditional taupe. You can see it, they're all shimmery satins. Then we have this shade here, which is more of a champagne gold, a little bit more gold than champagne. And then this one is kind of like a soft peach. And then we have a brown here, and it's neutral with a touch of warmth. So we're going to start off with the first taupe shade using a Hakuhodo J5533. So just going to get a little bit of this on here, and I'm not using any primer or anything right now because I figure we'll go ahead and we'll do 2 looks. Next, we're going to go into the peachy shade right here. And this is the Sonia G Worker Pro. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick up some of this. And I'm going to put this kind of on this outer portion here. Actually curious how the peach in here compares to the Dior Organza Quad or Quint. And then we're going to go into this more golden shade here at the top. So in the pan, it really looks more like an ivory shade, but on my arm, it definitely has more warmth than an actual ivory. We're just going to take that over to meet that. So this is going to be the basic look. And then we're going to line the eyes actually with a deeper brown. So before we do that, I'm going to take the Pencil Pro. I'm going to go into that same gold shade that I was just using. And I'm just going to dab a little bit right here at the inner corner and drag it down just a touch, just for some added brightening. Next, I'm going into the deeper brown shade here. And I'm just knocking any excess off on my cloth that's sitting on my lap. And I'm just going to have a very soft smudged line at the base here. Okay, so with the left on the brush, I'm going to use on the lower lash line. All right, so that's it for the eyes. I'm gonna add some mascara and do my brows. Then we're gonna come back and we're gonna do the cheeks and the lips. All right, so eyes are done, and I was just looking at the foundation, and I think the foundation looks really nice. It has definitely settled into my skin by now, and it still just feels like I have nicely moisturized skin. It definitely doesn't feel like greasy or oily, but if you're somebody with oily skin, I'm not sure if this would be a great idea because it does feel so moisturizing. Now, I figure for the blush, what we're going to do is we're going to set one side of the face with powder first. So I'm going to use the Sisley Futo Puja Compact. This is shade number 1, Rosee. And I'm just going to lightly dust this on my right side. So just going to use the Sunyoji Master Face Brush. And we're going to just see if setting the powder or setting the foundation makes any difference in how the blush looks or performs as well. So here it is with the powder versus no powder. Okay, so here, this is the Peche Rosee Blush Lumiere. So you can see these are going to be the larger 14-gram size. It has the gold here as well. It comes with the Half Moon brush as well as a little disc to hold that. And this is the shade. So let's go ahead. You can see there's a little bit of shimmer in here. Can you see that? So I'm just going to put the blush, well, we'll put the, no, we'll have to put it down here. So here's Peche Rosee. And I think that's the shade. Let's go ahead and we'll go all peach. We'll go with this right now. So I'm taking the Sunyoji Cheek Pro and just getting a little powder on here, knocking that off. And let's see how this goes on. You can see there's definitely plenty of pigment with just a tiny touch. We'll add a little bit more here, but you can see this definitely does have a sheen or some shimmer to it. And there is a golden undertone. You see that like gold reflect when the light hits. So I don't feel like that's as evident in the swatch, but on the skin, I definitely see gold here. Let me build this up just a little bit more. All right, well, might as well just build the one cheek a lot more so you guys can see how deep it can get. So I feel like you can get maybe slightly deeper than this, but we're close to the limit here. So no blush, blush. Now let's see how it does on the side without powder. All right, so I think they're pretty equivalent in pigmentation level at this point. Let me know what you guys think of this. I think for me, this is, I have it on more pigmented than how I would wear it on a regular daily basis, but that's more so you guys can really see the color. And I think if I put this on more softly, it's something that I would like. Unfortunately though, this gold isn't my favorite. So for the lips, although much, much darker, I do want to try this. This is number 178, Brun Celeste in the La Comète lipsticks. So yeah, you can see these all have a little bit of shimmer. You can't really see it so much on the bullet until you actually use it. So let's see how this goes on. It is looking a little patchy here. Let me take this off and just clean my lips in case I had some residue on there. All right, so I also wiped the lipstick balm just in case there was residue and I transferred it. So let's see how this goes on now. So that's a sheer layer. I don't know. So first impressions of this, you know, the texture of this is a little bit thinner than I expected. compared to like some of the other like matte lipsticks and everything that are, you know, Chanel usually comes out with at this time of year. And it's thinner. When I really pile it on, I do feel a little bit of the glitter, but only when I put on several layers. I do think though that it is not perfectly smooth, meaning like it's a little patchy. If you look at my upper lip, you can see how the color is not completely consistent all throughout. So I'm gonna have to play with these a little bit more, and I will update you guys with all of the colors in the video dedicated to the La Comète lipsticks. But this one here is 178, which is called Brun Celeste. I have to say though, I do like the color, and yeah, I think maybe I just need to play with them a little bit and see, and it could just be this one, but I like the color. I like the way they feel. They feel a little bit thinner, a little bit oilier actually on the lips as well. So, you know how the Rouge Coco Blooms have kind of that oily texture? These actually feel slightly thinner than those, but they still have that similar oiliness to them. But I think from a distance, I do like the actual way that they look on the lips. So we shall see. I will play with those more and test those out before, you know, giving you guys my final thoughts on those. So this is the first look then from a distance with the Peche Rosé blush. And I don't have any additional like highlight or anything on at this moment. And we went kind of with more of a peachy eye look here. And this is the Brun Celeste lipstick. So I'm going to bring you in and we're going to add the Ensoleille to this before going ahead and doing another look. All right, so here's the Ensoleille. And I have not used one of these before. We're going to go ahead and dab a little bit on here. And it does have, you know, like a, so far there's a little tackiness. We'll see if that settles down at all. Let's see here. I'm going to bring this a little higher up just so you can really see the color there. You can see that the color is actually pretty similar to the Peche Rosé blush. Could probably, you know, use one versus the other. Let's put that here so you can, well, we'll put it down this way. So this is it. And then if you build it up a bit, you can see that, yeah, they do have a similar tone to them. So obviously this glow stick has a lot more sheen, a lot more shine to it. It's definitely more in your face. You can see this side here is much more subtle than this one. And yeah, I figured let's go ahead and try one of the balms now. All right, so we're gonna take one of the balms. And this one here is Flirty Coral. So let's put that right here. So here's Flirty Coral. And it's got a thin, balmy texture. There is a little bit of shimmer in here. Not really like glitter particles like there are in the La Comète lipsticks. More so just the sheen. So let's see how this goes. I do still have a tiny bit of glitter that, you know, glitter never goes away. So this is one layer of Flirty Coral. You can see it's pretty pigmented. It feels balmy, but it actually feels like it's drying on my lips. Not drying them out, but I mean like it's soaking in. It's, yeah, it's kind of like, you know, the product actually kind of soaked into my lips and I don't feel it as much. Let's add another layer. So that's really more of a couple layers. So that's about how you can build it up. So it's going to build up not quite as deep as a lipstick, but definitely deeper than a traditional tinted lip balm. You've got that sheen to it, that shine. It's, yeah, the shine or the sheen to it reminds me of a slightly more subdued version of a Chantecaille Lip Chic. So I like the shine. The texture, I like the texture so far. So it's thin, but you know how some of those lipsticks have kind of that like vinyl texture, but they're usually a thicker formulation. This has a touch of that, like they have in the, what are they called? The Rouge Locks. So a little bit of that like vinyl kind of texture that you feel in those. And those are like a liquid product, but you can feel that when you rub your lips together. And I get a hint of that as well. There's a little bit of an oily texture to it, like a thin texture, but it really does feel kind of like it soaks in. It actually reminds me more of a lightweight lotion that you would put on your skin, and then it kind of like sinks in mostly, and you're just left with like a little bit of, you know, like texture to your skin. That's what this feels like. It feels like the majority of the product is actually soaking in, and I don't, yeah, there's only like a thin layer left on your lips. So really interesting. I'll definitely be playing with these more, and I will give you guys updated thoughts and test them out for wear time and all of that as well. But this is Flirty Coral, which is number 916. So here is the Ensoleille, right? You can see it right here. And after being on my skin, it has not soaked in or dried down at all. I can still feel the product. It's a bit tacky, and you know, my hair will stick to this. On this side where I have less product, my hair probably won't stick to this side at all. I still feel a little bit of tackiness, but obviously not as much where I have the heavier application, but it is definitely still there. I think this shade though, you know, you could use this as a light blush highlighter product. You don't have to necessarily pair it with a blush separately. I think it gives a really nice sheen, and it doesn't seem as golden on my skin as the Peche Rosee shade does, where the light hits it. So it seems peachier, less golden. And again, we've got the Flirty Coral Lip Balm, and I'm really liking the texture so far. All right, so for look 2, we're going to not use a primer, and just going to go ahead and add the concealer and get my stuff ready. And I'm not going to wait with the concealer this time, going back in with the Jumbo Concealer from Sonia G, and just going to smooth that in. And for the face, I'm going to go ahead and use this foundation again. So this again is the Chanel No. 1 foundation, and it's really more like of a serum foundation. It's very, very thin, and I am using shade BD01. So I just have a little bit here on my skin, on my hand, and let's go ahead and put this on. I'm going to use the same brush. All right, so I'm just taking what's left on my hand, just gonna dab that here, and this is it. So I'm gonna let this kind of settle down in my skin. Last time we powdered one side and not the other. I didn't really notice a difference with the blushes, but we'll try that again. But first, let's move on to the eyes again. And this time, instead of going with a peachier look, we're going to use a little bit more of the brown and champagne shade here. Brown in the taupe shade rather. So I'm taking the Fude Japan brush. This is the one that's like the Suku L brush. So I think this is called the large eyeshadow brush. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna dip into the taupe shade, the first shade here. We're gonna do a very, very simple eye look. And we're gonna put this kind of all over. We'll just accent it with the deeper shade. So that's a very light layer here. Now this is a squirrel hair brush, so it's going to give a little bit of a softer application. I'll show you the other eye with a different brush so you can see the difference. So this is the first shade all over. Now on the other eye, we'll take the undyed goat hair from Sonia G. This is the worker 2. And I'm going to do the same thing just to show you the application difference with the brush hairs here. So you can see right away that this kind of grabs onto the lid a little bit more strongly and it gets pretty pigmented right away. So if I go in with a second layer with this, you can see how that is. So they're pretty comparable, but the eye with the squirrel hair is slightly less, just a little bit lighter, a little bit softer looking. But I'm going to continue with the worker 2 here into the deeper brown. This time I'm going to use the tip of the bristle. So I'm just going to get a little bit of this on here, and I'm just going to start out here and kind of add that in just for a little added depth here. But we're going for a very simple look today. All right, so I'm just taking the large eyeshadow brush and I wiped it off. I have nothing on it. I am just cleaning the crease, kind of spreading a little bit of that, wiping the brush between sides. So I'm going to take the tip of this brush now and just dip just a very, very little bit, knock it on my cloth, and that is in the gold shade. I'm just putting that under the brow for a little bit of a highlight here. Okay, and then to line the eyes, we're going to go with something like an actual eyeliner for the upper lashes, but for the lower lash line, I am going to use this darker brown shade here with the Pencil Pro that I used last time. So I'm just going to the halfway point with this. And I'm going to take the same brush into the first shade, the taupe, and use that right next to it here. And I'm going into this golden shade with the Pencil Pro for the inner corner here, just a very little bit. And then I'm going to take 943. This is one of the Chanel Stylos. This is Brun Agape. And I'm going to put this on the upper lash line here. All right, so that's it for the eyeliner. I'm going to add some mascara. Brows will come back and we'll do cheeks and lips. All right, so now that we've got that done, let's go in. We're using the Sisley powder again, the Master Face brush, and just like last time, we will go with the white right side with the powder. Now, just so you can really see this on its own, I'm going to add a touch of this just right here to the side. This is just a little bit. I just added a small amount, just so you can really see the color a little bit better. So that's the Ensoleille. And I do want to add the blush Lumiere, and this time we're using Brun Roussi. And this comes packaged the same way as the other one. You've got the velvet case, it's 14 grams, 18 months shelf life for both of these. These are made in France. Oh, and by the way, the Mediterranean quad has an 18-month shelf life as well, and is also made, oh, it's made in Italy, and it's 2 grams. Okay, so we've got the half moon brush and the little plastic disc. And this is it. I have to say, it looks really beautiful. It looks really dark, but it looks really beautiful. So let's go ahead and try this out. All right, so I'm using another Cheek Pro. I have 2 of them. So this one's clean. And we're going to go ahead and test this out. So plenty of pigment comes up on the brush. Just gonna dab a tiny bit off. And I'm going right underneath the highlight here. You can see it where it's hitting the highlight, it's adhering. I definitely would not add the highlight beforehand like I did here, but I just wanted you to kind of see that shade isolated. Let me fix this side real quickly. All right, so I tried to remove everything there. You know, I have a little bit left. I didn't totally wash my face or anything. I just wiped it. And let's start again with the Brun Roussi. I did reapply the powder, so we have the powder finish underneath. You know, this has gold too. I'm a little surprised. Let's see how this goes. So this is really easy to get to this level of pigmentation. It's obviously too deep for me to wear like this, but this is something that I can put on much lighter than the way I did right now. So here's the swatch for Brun Rosee, just so you can see that. And again, just like with the Peche Rosé, you don't really see any of that sheen. Now, I do have to say it does not look as golden when the light hits it to me. It actually maybe more like reddish. I see more golden on this side. Maybe I still have like a little bit of the Ensoleille left, but I don't think it's that golden. All right, I'm going to get the Synergy Smooth Buffer and buff this out so it looks a little bit softer, just so you can see what it looks like from a distance before I buff it out. So you can see a little bit more of that golden glint there. Doesn't look as gold though on this side. There is still some, but I feel like it's not as predominant. All right, so here's the Synergy Smooth Buffer. Just going to buff this. See how it moves on its own without having to apply anything else. Now that's kind of set on the skin for a minute. All right, so let's switch sides. All right, so here it is buffed out or buffed in a little bit. And I think this looks better pigmentation wise, but again, you know, I would probably apply it differently on a regular day, maybe with a softer, fluffier blush brush, so I put less pigmentation down in the first place. But I think it looks good. Let's move on to lips. One of the ones I've been really wanting to try from the La Comète line is Rouge V Radiant. I have the Rouge V, and I've been really curious about the Radiant version of it and how they compare. So let's try this one on. So here's one layer. You know, I feel like this one doesn't look patchy. What do you guys think? This one looks more consistently all over. And yeah, texturally it feels the same. I like it. So I'll definitely have to play with that and see, you know, with the, what was that called? The Brun, the first one that I tried on, the brown one. I will definitely have to play with those and the other La Comètes. But this one, I really like it. And I really like the texture of these. I really like the texture of the brown one too, but I'm not sure why that one just didn't look as smooth. This one though, I feel like it does, and I really like it. So here's the look from a distance. So let's go in and add the Ensoleille. I forgot to swatch the Rouge V Radiant. So this is number 138. Again, we've got the La Comète symbol there. Let me just swatch that one here on my hand. I have to say, on my hand, from my recollection, it does look like the Rouge V. I will have to swatch those side by side, but I wanted to go ahead and try on one of the lip balms that I've been really anticipating. This one here is 914 Natural Charm, and I really wanted to try this color. So one sheer layer, you can see it's kind of like a brownish shade here. There's a peachiness to it, but it's not too warm. So when you build it up, you definitely see more of that peachiness, but it's definitely going to be a nude. So it's brown with a touch of peach. Same texture as the other one. So now let's go ahead and add the Ensoleille. And this time I'm going to go in with my finger and just get a little bit on here. And we'll just add a touch. So it's going to be subtle. There it is. I think putting it on this way is my preference. And I think this would actually go really nicely with the Peche Rosee blush as well. I think I'm gonna like all of these pieces. So here's the final look from a distance. You can see the highlight really gives that sheen. It looks, you know, it's really more about the light reflection. It's not glittery at all, but it definitely looks kind of wet, you know? And this is the Natural Charm lip balm. I really like it. Overall, I'm really happy with this look. All right, so let's go ahead and do some comparisons. So I have some comparisons that you have requested and a few more that, you know, things made me think of them. So before we move on though, these are the lip products that I tried on in the demos. So this first one here is La Comète. This is Brun Celeste, and this is Rouge V Radiant. So this one here is 178 versus 138. And then these two are the lip balms. This one is Flirty Coral, number 916, and 914 Natural Charm, which is what's on my lips right now. And again, I will have, you know, further thoughts and opinions on the lip balms and the La Comète, as well as swatches and comparisons of all of them in 2 separate videos. So if you have any requests for any comparisons for any of the lip products, because I purchased all of them, just please let me know and I will include those in the video. Now for comparisons for this, let's start off with the eye quad. And the first request was actually to compare it with the Chanel number 5 quad. And this was the holiday palette. Now, color-wise, it's not really the same, but you can see that they're both very shimmery palettes. The number 5 has more shimmer. You can see they're going to be more sparkly, but this gold shade here, the second one, it's not quite there with the level of sparkliness, but it is similar. Now, I have to say, if you're somebody who doesn't like sparkly shadows, you're not going to like either of these. All 4 of the shades in the Mediterranean quad have shimmer in them. So let me just show you that up close again. So here it is. And even this one here, which the shimmer isn't as evident in it, they all have shimmer. They all have little like glitter particles in them. So, you know, definitely something to keep in mind. I feel like this color story is fairly neutral. We went over the colors in demo 1 here, but this is kind of like a soft taupe that leans more brown. We have this champagne gold shade, which looks more like a golden ivory in the pan, but it definitely looks more gold on the skin, especially on my eyes. This one here is more of a soft peach. And then we have a brown that leans warm. So again, those are all satiny. One of the shades that I really wanted to see was the peachy shades in the new Dior Quint 719 Organza. So I'm just going to go ahead and swatch this Quint. These are the first 3 shades. We're going to put it right next to it here. So those are the first 3. You can see that the tones are kind of similar. Now, these are not going to be like dupes or anything. The finishes are different on the 2 palettes. The color stories overall are different. But I do think if you isolate some of these shades, like if you take out this one, you have a very similar color story here. The tones are not the same. The Chanel is actually a little bit cooler overall than the Organza, but I do think that they're very similar. You know, I think if you leave out this like peachy orange shade, you've got a very similar looking palette here. And then another palette I wanted to compare this to is the Tom Ford Nude Dip. And this is a classic. Again, the colors aren't going to quite match up, but there's something about it that reminded me of this. So obviously the Tom Ford Nude Dip is more of a metallic sheen than these, which are going to be softer in the pigmentation and more shimmery. Trying to get just the right lighting there. But it still has kind of those like neutral qualities to it. I feel like the taupey brown shades are pretty similar. Like this one is very close to this. They don't have anything quite this deep in the new Mediterranean quad, but these are pretty similar. The Nude Dip is going to be cooler in tone. This is definitely more pink than anything here compared, you know, but it's kind of like substituting for the peachy shade. And then this kind of more like champagne shade. I mean, again, it's going to be cooler in tone, less golden, but it's kind of like a mix of these two here. And this first shade is kind of more like a silvery, deeper version of this first taupe shade. So I do think that they have a similar vibe in the color story, but the different finishes are going to make them look completely different on the eyes. But I think it's a nice contrast. All right, so let's look at some comparisons for Peche Rosee. So again, these are the blush Lumieres, which, you know, it's a highlighter blush. You can see that they do have a sheen. I don't feel like the sheen is as evident in the swatches as it is on the skin. So first request here was for Tom Ford Peach Poison. So looking at this orange side here, and let's see how this compares. Okay, so it's a little bit brighter. There's definitely more yellow in the Peche Rosee. This one here is Cherry Blaze. We're going to look at this peachy side here. And definitely too light here. Another one that we're going to compare it to, although this is a cream product, this is the Tower 28 Rush Hour. So I don't have a lot of Tower 28 blushes. Let's put this one right here. Yeah, nope. Now this is the Sisley Fido blush in number 4, Golden Rose. This color is not really like this, but the finish on here is similar. You see, you can get that like metallic hint to it. So this is really what you get more on the cheeks with the Chanel. So that's kind of why I wanted to put that in there. Another one, this is the Makeup by Mario Creamy Peach. Again, this is just a regular blush. It's not going to have the sheen to it. Let's see, where can I squeeze this? Just put this one here. It's more corally, has more pink in it. And then my last comparison with this one is going to be 459 Nightbird from Dior. We're just looking at the peach shade here in the center. And this has kind of that satin vibe to it. You can see those. They are going to be fairly close. Those are probably the best match there. Now, moving on to Brun Roussi. This is I really, really like this shade. So that's this brown one here. And you can see it is a warm toned brown. We're going to take a look at Les Chaînes de Chanel. This is the one that came out last year. And there you can see this one has a little bit more red. It's a little bit softer. There's definitely more golden tones in Brun Roussi, but also kind of more like the red is like more of a burgundy red tone versus this is like a little rosier, if that makes sense. So it's got a little bit more like brick tones in there. Okay, and then we're also going to take a look at Tower 28 Power Hour. And I bought this during one of the Sephora sales and I just haven't gotten around to opening this yet. So let's take a look at this. And wow, that's pigmented. All right. So here's that. Let me just brush out this one a little bit too. Yeah, I think this one's definitely more like Cocoa Red instead of the like, it doesn't have that softness and that golden hue in in the undertones. And then this is Pat McGrath Paradise Venus. This I think is going to be too red. In my head, it looked more similar, but yeah, it's definitely going to be too red compared to Brun Roussi. This is the Westman Atelier Lit Up Stick in Brulee. So just wanted to show you, I mean, obviously a different formula, but that's kind of like a softer version of it. And then this one here is Nectar. Yeah, definitely too soft in comparison to Ensoleille. This is Violet FR Universal Highlighter. Not even really seeing it. There. Yeah, no, this is pretty much clear. And we've got the Merit Highlighting Stick in Bounce. Let's put that here. No, it's got the golden hue, but it doesn't have any of that peachiness. And yeah, I don't have anything quite like Ensoleille, which means for me, good purchase. All right, so my first impressions of this collection are really positive. I really like everything. You know, trying on the Peche Rosé blush, that one, you know, more of the golden tones showed up than I was anticipating. I think for that one, maybe I just need to play with the application a little bit, but I think the actual color I'm going to enjoy. So I think I just need to play with that a little bit. The Brun Roussi, surprisingly, I really like that. I really like, it kind of gives you a little bit of that sunburnt look on your skin, which, you know, I just think it looks really pretty. The Ensoleille, I do like the Ensoleille. It's something different for me. I think most of the time, if I were to build that up, maybe I would use that just with like a tinted moisturizer and put the balm on my cheeks for the summer, and that would be it for a nice light look. But using it as a highlighter, I think it is, you know, if I dab my finger on it and then apply it that way, I think pairing that with any of the blushes, you know, not even just from this collection, I think that would be really pretty. And I like the peachiness to it. The Mediterranean quad, I think it's a really nice set of more shimmery neutrals. I like the colors in there. I have to say, you know, I like it, but I thought I was gonna like it more than I did. So I do like it, and I would definitely recommend it if those are colors that you like. I guess I was just thinking that I didn't think this one was going to be so golden. I thought it was going to be more ivory. And yeah, like I really like more of the taupey shade and the brown shade. The peach is nice also. I guess I was just expecting maybe a little bit more pigmentation from them. They are very light in coloration. And I was thinking that they would build up a little bit more than they do. So they're a little bit softer overall than I expected. Now, not all of the colors, you know, some of the colors are more pigmented than others, but overall it's just a lighter look. And I knew it was going to be light. I just thought it would be a little bit more buildable than it is, if that makes sense. So overall though, I like it. I like the colors, and I think the eye look that I have on now, which was demo 2, that's kind of something that I would do a lot with this particular quad. Now the number 5 quad is still one of my go-tos right now. It does not beat that for me. I still prefer the number 5. As for the lip products, I'm really enjoying these balms. You know, they're very comfortable on the lips. They have some slide or glide on your lips, but it's very thin and comfortable. You don't really notice it. And I think it gives a nice level of pigmentation. Between these and the Dior lip balms, I think the Dior lip balms, well, you know, I'll have to try and see, because maybe it's just the colors I tried, but I was going to say that some of the Dior lip balms are more pigmented, but that's not actually true. It really depends on the color there. So I will, you know, play with all that stuff more and have a video up dedicated to the lip balms. The La Comète lipsticks, I definitely need to try all those as well, because the Brun Celeste did go on patchy. The Rouge V did not. So I need to kind of see, you know, what's going on there. Maybe it was me, you know, I don't know. So we'll play around with those, and I will have a dedicated video to the La Comète lipsticks as well. So overall, I have to say that everything's been a win. I'm enjoying the sample of the #1 foundation so far, and can't wait to play with that more as well. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you have additional comparison requests, please let me know, and I will have those in another video. And thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great day and stay safe. So it has been between 7 and 8 hours since I applied everything, and I wanted to show you how everything is holding up. So this is the side that has the powder. This is the side that doesn't. I think both sides look pretty radiant, but the side with the powder I think looks a bit better than the side without. This is just a little bit dewier look for me. Now, texturally, I don't feel anything. Like, it does not feel any different than it did originally. It doesn't feel oily or greasy or anything like that. This is the lip balm that I had on in demo 2, and this is what's left after eating and drinking. You know, I had dinner and everything. So it left stain, and it hasn't really gone anywhere. So, I mean, obviously it doesn't look fresh or anything, but there is still pigment remaining on my lips. Eyeshadows, I didn't use primer. I typically do use primer, and then I've never had an issue with Chanel shadows lasting throughout the day, but you can see now that they have kind of faded a bit, particularly in spots where my lids are a little bit oilier. So that's kind of how everything is holding up. So overall, for the shadows, I would recommend using a primer. The blush and everything, you can see how that has performed. Let me show you from a distance. So this is how everything looks from a distance. Overall, everything is still present.